Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm G. I'm glad to see you, and I hope you're glad to see me. Before we do anything else, I want to tell you thank you for the comments. I appreciate them. And thank you for the love. I appreciate that. And hey, love back to you as well. I hope everybody is creating new memories. I know I am, and I will always be, because basically we have to continue. We have to continue the effort to improve our life post an organization or a controlling organization. But before we get into anything else, let's talk about the topic that we're going to discuss next week, because you want to tell your friends the topic next week. If you know someone who's trying to get out of the organization, you might want to tell them to tune in, because I'm going to cover topics, points that they never thought about. Legalities. There may be some legalities, and there may be some legal things that you may want to consider in coming out of the organization, and that nobody's your friend when you're trying to leave. So we're going to talk about that next video. So stay tuned. Today's video, this one is more designed for us, for those who have came out of the organization, because the topic is, are you awake? Really? Are you awake? You know, what if someone that you know called you up early one morning or early in the afternoon? Let's say the afternoon. They call you and they said, hey Jay, hey listen, hey man, I woke up early this morning. And you said, really? He said, yeah, man, I woke up early. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning, a.m. Can you believe that? And you go, well, wow, man, that's great. I'm sure you got a lot done, right? and the person who woke up early that morning said, it's 11 o'clock now. So no doubt, you got a lot of stuff accomplished today. And that person says, no, man, I'm still in the bed. And you go, what? And he said, yeah, I'm still in the bed, but I'm awake. The first thing you're going to think is, what a time waster. How much time have you wasted? You wasted 5 hours. You know, I think we call that milking the clock. Or you can call it, again, a waste of time. What about us? You know, when we say that we are awake. Now, he was awake. But what's the difference? He's not getting anywhere. It's almost like sitting in a rocking chair. And you're just going fast as you can, but you're not getting anywhere. Being awake in coming out of the organization, so many people are using that word. In fact, it's becoming a post-organization buzzword. I'm awake. I've awakened. I woke up. The day I woke up. And you hear it a lot. But the question I had is, and the reason I brought this subject up is because I've been talking to several people. And they asked me, what woke me up? And I said, what do you mean wake up, or whichever word you want to use. Because what it is that they ask that question because they don't realize there's several phases of waking up. And what are those phases? We're going to talk about that. And we're going to get into basically what those phases are. And are you truly awake? But when they asked me that question, I went into those. And I talked about how the phases of waking up are phase 1. The ordinary, not ordinary, but the basic waking up. The basic wake up is when a person just, like a PMO. He's physically in, mentally out, but he's still inside the organization. So he's awake. He's aware of what's going on in the organization. But he says he can't leave because of whatever the case may be. But he's awake. He's like the illustration I just gave of the individual who woke up early in the morning. But you ask yourself this question again. Okay, he's awake, but he does nothing. He just awake to his situation. Why doesn't he move? Well, that comes in the second phase, which is the ordinary awake. You are an ordinary person who's woke up. ordinary awake. And what that one is, that you recognize not only the condition you're in, but you found the need to remove yourself from that position. And those conditions, you realize that, hey, they're harmful to me, I'm out of here. But you know the difference is, as far as that person goes, and that's why it's called ordinary. You see the need to remove yourself, but that's it. It's kind of like a situation if someone is in an abusive relationship and they hit you and you remove yourself. But you go to a house down the street, you don't improve your status, or you don't improve how you got to that point, and that's what that person does. But you know the greatest one at all, the one I really appreciate, and this is the one where I told the individual I had to put myself in. And why? It's because basically it's above ordinary. It's the greatest one of all. Guess what that is? That one is the extraordinary awakening. That extraordinary awakening is a person or people who live the same life as you, as anyone, as an ordinary or as a basic awakening. But the difference is they are aware of their current situation, just like the other person, but then they completely examine their mental, physical, and spiritual conditions. It's kind of like what they call soul searching. Then you observe your behavior and to bring yourselves into an alignment or in harmony with a total mind, body, and spirit. And that's what that extraordinary awakening is. And once they do that, they can find out the truth about all that's going on in their life, the mind, body, and soul. That's the difference. So as we dive into this, I want to talk about some things that I had to do. What makes a person extraordinary? And what makes a person just ordinary or basic awakening? Now the difference is our actions, our behavior. Our behavior can move us or not move us to be extraordinary. Behavior is like, I'm going to go through about 20 behaviors, somewhere close to that. And one of them could be, are you still questioning whether you're in the organization or not? And this can be a big behavior, because this one we all go through. I went through this one. And if you're still questioning that, you're not completely awake, because you forgot why you left the organization. I know for me, my biggest one was because of the disfellowshipping. That's not number one, but the faithful and discreet slave, God's visible organization, as they call themselves. But there's no scriptural background for that. There's no scriptural basis for that. So that makes it null and void. So that means that they're operating on their own, and we know that they are. We see they're just 8 men. The other one that was big to me was Jesus' rule, 1914, the Passover. This is a big one here. This one about Jesus' Passover, the wine and the bread. The organization said, we pass it around. You're not to partake unless you have the anointed. But there's no scriptural background for this. So that would make that a false statement. And when Jesus gave to man to do that, they're overshadowing Jesus. The other one is slander of apostasy. That's a huge one. I'm going to get into that a little bit more toward the end of the video. The other one is diminishing Jesus to an archangel. Wow, imagine that. Diminishing him to an archangel. There's no scriptural background for that. Jesus taught faith, not religion. That was my critical one that got me moving and really looking at where I am. And the control not to research the organization. The judicial meetings, you can't bring anyone with you. You must obey the elders. The watchtower. Even if they're wrong, right or wrong, you ought to obey them, because they consider themselves God's visible organization. And the biggest one of all is that the organization is the epitome of putting trust in man, to which in the Bible the scriptures and God said not to do. Do not put your trust in nobles. But yet they do it. So that's just some of the ones that I picked out to confirm that I can go back on and never have to second guess. You might want to write yours down. I had many more, And there are many more out there, I'm sure you know. You may have some of yourself, 607 BC, all the dates. Oh, the big one also, the 5 different prophecies that didn't come true. There are many. But then the discovery that I had, the discovery that this is just false religion, there's no difference. And God doesn't have a visible organization. So, number 2, if you still use, I had to get rid of the terms. So if you still use the term the truth, then you may not be completely awake, because that means I would still consider myself part of the organization if I'm still calling it the truth. Just in conversation, even in general conversation, you have to get rid of those terms. You still use the New World Translation Bible. You got to think about that, because that Bible, if you haven't done research on it, that's a Bible that's not recognized by a lot of the profound scholars, because it was written with their agenda in mind. A lot was changed in the New World Translation. So you might want to check it out. So that's not a big thing, but it was for me, and I'll get into that a little bit more as well. You may still refer, this is a big one, if you still refer to individuals as brothers, sisters, or elders, then that means, you know what, you still consider yourself part of the organization. You haven't broke free if you don't know the difference. They're not your brothers, they're not your sisters, they're not elders anymore. If you are awake, they're not. The next one I had to think about was, this is the big one, that I was still holding on to the magazines and the books and the publication and tracts and all of those things. They were still on my bookshelf. Now, why was that so important? Because I had to look at, these was the same publications that they used to indoctrinate me. So there was an attachment to them, because I'm thinking, okay, we read these things. In fact, do you know and realize that if you read the daily text 365 days out of the year, that you've been indoctrinated from the Watchtower? Because they use the Watchtower as comments. Unlike I use YouVerse. They give me the verse of the day, the YouVerse app, or Bible Hub app. I use those. But they give me a scripture. No opinions, no comments, just that scripture. I go to the Bible and I read the whole chapter for myself. There's no eisegesis approach to trying to get me to conform to their ideas or any of that. So, just something to think about. The other one that I had to think about along with the magazines, if you're still holding on to them, you might ask yourself, why can't you get rid of them? It was the hardest thing for me to do, so I can appreciate how you feel maybe about it. But the day I put all of the tracts, books, including some of the Bibles, I put them in a bag, sealed it up, dropped it in my garbage can, that was the day I knew I was not indoctrinated anymore, and I had broke free. You might want to be something to look at, because this is one of the biggest and the last items to hold people back that they hang on to. Bond volumes. There's no sentimental, there's no value to them. The only value is that they use them to indoctrinate us. So, you might want to think about that. Are you still indoctrinated if you're holding on to these items? The next one that I thought was important was you may have some confusion, and I covered this in another video. You may have some confusion or misconception about religion, about God, and about His Word, the Holy Scriptures. And the confusions come from many people. They lump God and religion and the Scriptures all in the same category. You see, God didn't create religion. Religion was created by man. God is totally separated. In fact, God told David, if you look at that account, when David wanted to build a place for worship for God, he said, how can you build something for me? Because I created everything. And my dwelling place is in the heavens, is what God told David. And not only that, Paul said it in Corinthians as well, that God places in the heavens. Yeah, it's not in any church. There's no kingdom hall. There's no temple. And remember, that's where Jesus had most of his problems. So research those, research religion, and I guarantee you it's going to open up a whole new door for you to really look at. Don't get mad because coming out of the organization and just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm sure you heard that term, which means because you're jumping up the religion, you're going to just throw God and the Bible and all the values and all the morals out with it. Don't do it. So another one that I had to consider was that this is a big one for most people. If you have not moved on, if you have not progressed in any aspect of your life, you may be still indoctrinated. You may be still hanging on. If you're not progressed, if you're still in the same spot, even after a year, 2 years, so look at that and see if that's where you're at. If you haven't progressed, it's kind of like an individual when they leave prison and they've been incarcerated for years and they're out and they go just sit on the curb. And when they sit on the curb there, they have no idea which way to go because there's a fork in the road mentally. Which way do I go? I don't know if many of you remember the movie, I think it was Shawshank Redemption. It was by Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. And in this movie, remember, it was a prison movie. And Morgan Freeman gets out. And some of his other buddies, some did not make it on the outside. Some ended up committing another offense to go back to prison. Others died. They committed suicide because they could not live on the outside. They was incarcerated mentally. And Morgan Freeman, he followed his buddy Tim Robbins, who left him instructions to follow to help him overcome how to live on the outside. And so that helped. It's a great movie. If you haven't, look it up. And so sometimes we can become that same way. We can allow ourselves to not move because we still indoctrinated mentally. Move forward. Another one that I had to consider. If I was on a mission to stop Watchtower, to point out their faults. And this one was it was like in a retaliation stage. So I had to break free of that. I had to make sure I didn't adopt that. I didn't hang on to that. Because then if I did that, that meant that I still had some attachment. And it also means that that's an emotional attachment. And that means that I was trying to retaliate. And why would I want to do that if I'm free of the organization? If I'm trying to move on with my life, if I don't want to be on a mission to try to stop Watchtower. That's not mine. Mine was improving my life and my family. Okay, another one that I had to look at was that if I can't go more than a day, if I couldn't go more than a day without just talking about the Watchtower, then I may be still connected. I may be still connected. You see, the organization, I may be out of it, but it may be still in me. If another one, who's a big one? This one's a big one for me. If I would not accept being called an apostate, and I see many individuals, they do after coming out of the organization, they accept the term apostate. But here's the question: if you left and there was no repercussion, or the elders didn't try to label you, would you call yourself an apostate? Even if you don't believe in God, would you call yourself an apostate? I doubt any of you would, because I know I wouldn't, and I did not accept it. It took legal actions. It stopped it. So that's just something to think about. I think I was on somewhere around maybe 10 or 11. You still consider yourself disfellowshipped. And you're out of the organization. You tell people, yeah, I was disfellowshipped. You're not any of that. Remember, disfellowshipping is man-made. It was a doctrine that they held on to. They adopted. It's a very harsh rule. And it was to condition the members to control their mind, to keep everything in control in the organization. And this was only mandated by the organization. And it was carried out by the elders to keep supporters under control. And because the members of the congregation, they was uninformed, so they accepted this. Many of them, they had no idea. Do you know many people don't know what that means, this fellowship? There's no scriptural background for it. And remember, it's not stamped on your head, so there's no need to continue to carry that. Drop the terms, drop the names. You're not in it anymore. Or are you? If you're still part of it, it may be in you. Drop the terms. You still read ex-members' complaints. Yeah, you may need their complaints to validate your position. You don't need that. I had to ask myself, did I need validation to complain or the complaints to be validated? Rah, yeah, man, hate them, yeah. No, I didn't need that. I moved on. Another one that I have to get rid of. If you're counting, this is number 13, I think. Did I get emotional or did I get a rush by bashing the organization? Let me tell you, whether you're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, this type of behavior, it shows that we still are attached to the organization. It shows resentment and a vindictive attitude. That's why I had to let it go. It gives the illusion, man, that you may be, superior or maybe stronger than, because now I know. No, that's not what my intention was. So I let it go because I did not want to hang on to the belt of an organization by resenting what I had allowed them to do to me. The next one, this was one I really had to look at. One is, do I pretend that I'm doing fine? Do I pretend that I'm okay? I knew several people because being a life coach and mentor and helping people, I ran across two individuals. One who wanted to commit suicide after coming out of the organization because of the nightmares, because of the depression, because of the stress, the anxieties that he felt. He felt worthless. If you do not take control of RTS, which is your mental health, it will take control of you. Don't pretend. And I will show you how to do that. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. The next one is, you keep communication open to friends. You can't do that. It doesn't work, no matter how you try it. There's let's just say 0.5% that you could take some friends with you. Because what happens? As sad as it is, it's like breaking up with a family member. They are not willing to go through this. And not only that, they don't want to be faced with the consequences of talking to you. So, face it, it's an awkward situation when you're coming out of the organization. And friends, there may be a couple that hang with you, but remember, the friends in this organization are conditional. They are conditional. The majority of them. I'm going to give you a case in point. Individual I've been knowing for years, over 12 years. Now, I called him when I got out of the organization. This was just a couple months ago, actually. I had been out. And I just wanted to get his take because when we was in, we had interesting conversations. And our conversation often dealt with many things like you would talk about critical thoughts. He was an engineer. So I thought he was still thinking the same way, so I called him up. And as I got on the phone with him, he immediately gave me a rundown. You know how you haven't talked to a witness in a long time. They're going to tell you, if they're an elder, they're going to tell you about being an elder. If they're pioneering, they're going to tell you all of the visual things. All of the visual things that they feel makes them spiritual. So after he got all of that out, I realized then he was an elder, and I said, well, I had something to talk to you about. I said, never mind. He said, no, go ahead, man. He encouraged me. He pushed me to talk to him about what I had to. And he wanted to catch up. So as soon as I started to talk with him and told him the things that I had found out, the conversation went totally from right to left. It got quiet. Finally, he found a reason to try to get off the phone. After he gets off the phone, text message came, and the text message was, do not try to contact me again. If you do, I will block you. After 12 years, that's what you get. Don't take them with you. From then on, I got rid of everyone's number, even those that I was close to. If they want to contact me later on, down the road, I'll be open arms. But right now, you don't and I don't need the aggravation. So why put yourself through it? And why give someone an avenue to contact you? So the next one is, maybe you rebound or you go to another religion, or you try to find a replacement for the organization. And that's truly what you do. And I get that. We want to feel that familiarity or that familiar comfort growing. But my mom did that. My mom went back to the organization to which she left, the Baptist Church. She left that to come into the organization. But she went back to it again after she left the organization. So most of the time, all it is, it's a rebound. Give yourself time to heal before you jump into anything, whether it's atheism, whether it's any religion. You need time, unless you're good. Just, hey, if you want to be ordinary, I did not want to be ordinary. Extraordinary is what I was totally going for, to be free of the organization. So I wasn't looking for or trying to experience all of the qualities that the organization didn't have. I had put that to rest from my research. So if you're doing that, you may be still attached. You may only be basic awake. You may be still holding on to the organization. So the next one, or that you find yourself, you may degrade yourself, or you may just settle. You may belittle yourself. This is a big one for a lot of individuals who come out of a high control organization. And the reason is because their self-esteem has been lost, because you thinking about what you've lost, and all of the things you left behind, those are the things you're thinking about. So if this is where you are, then you may be still attached. As sad as it may be, you may be still attached. So really concentrate your efforts on trying to find the positive you. Change your routine. Your relationship has ended with the organization. So change your thought process. And the truth is, you deserve more. You're not anything less. Do not think of anything less at yourself. The next one is, I had to think about was I lashing out? I felt like it many times. And I really feel like lashing out. And you know what? This is irrational behavior. And you've seen many people do it who left the organization. They crashed the halls, crashed the conventions, crashed the cart. Guys, this does nothing. This does no one any good. Avoid that if at all possible. Take time to heal. It's an irrational, it's just an irrational approach to your emotion. Get control of it, because you're giving the organization and those onlookers an opportunity to say, that's what apostates are. See, I told you so. And you don't want to do that. The next one, this is a big one. You stalk, which I didn't want to do. I made sure, and which I did. Well, I did in the beginning. I got to tell you, I got to be honest. I stalk or I post about the organization on social media. Now, no good come from anybody who's stalking anything. So you don't want to stalk the Watchtower, the organization, for any reason on social media. And this can be done, man, by watching other people's videos. Especially if you're extraordinary, you've broken free, if you're truly awake, why do it? What are you looking for? Why do you want to keep beating the dead horse? Why do you want to awaken old emotional pains that you went through out of your organization? My wife and I talk about this constantly. Sometimes we want to go back, but we catch ourselves. We say, hey, I'm so glad now our life is 100% better than it was. Okay. You don't want to take, I had to avoid this as well. Oh, by the way, the last one we talked about, if you're still doing that, you may be still attached. The next one I had to avoid is, I didn't want to respond on the impulse. That's something you don't want to do. And I see people doing this. If you are impulsive, right after you come out of the organization, a couple of earrings here, a couple of tats everywhere, ponytail, well, you see I ain't got none. Anyway, a couple ponytails. You want to do all of the things that you couldn't do in the organization, but you're doing it to spite or in spite of. You're still attached. Be yourself. Take time to find yourself. Don't be impulsive. You don't have to move to Canada. We moved immediately because we was going to move anyway. Work was up where I was, so we moved. It worked for us. So I can't tell you what not to do. I'm just simply saying what worked for me is not to be impulsive. Give yourself time to find who you are. Using profanity because I can, that's not me, that's immature. Earrings, all of these things as if I'm a what do you call it, disgruntled kid who's been locked up and which some you have feel. Take time, discover who you really are. And those earrings and those tattoos may not be necessary. That's all we're saying. Another big one, you neglect your physical and mental health after you come out of the organization. That one I said I didn't do. I wasn't doing that anyway, even when I was in the organization. So I took time to discover who I was. I took time to take care of my mental health and physical health. I was always, I ate healthy. I was a chef in nutrition. So those things came into play anyway. So don't allow yourself to get so discouraged emotionally, or don't allow the mental drainness of paying attention to too much of these things to drain you, where you are depressed. Because anxiety, stress, and dreams and nightmares, individuals have had these a lot. So if you're still hanging on to this, it will affect your health. Why? Because stress releases hormones to cause you to overeat, to cause you to drink, to cause you to take drugs, to try to find a way to bury those emotions. Don't let that happen. A big one here, a big one. You dwell on the past. One of the psychiatrists that I went to and that I read a lot of his stuff, he often said that the brain is a record of our past, or a reflection of our past life. With that, individuals use that reflection, they dive back into it, even when it can hurt them. This is one of those times. You don't want to go back and constantly dwell on the past, dwell on all of the things that you could think of. And the reason you do that is because you're not creating new memories. So, if you dwell on the past, you'll never find the future. Someone said, it's like, I gave the illustration many times to individuals. Picture a brick or a rock. If you truly want to dump your past thoughts, get a brick. Write a piece of paper. Write all of the issues, all of the things that come up in your mind. Tape it really good. Rubber band it to that rock. Tape it to that rock. I don't care how you get it on there, but so it don't come off. Go to an ocean, lake, or pond. There's one of these, or many of them, in every city. Take that rock, go out there by yourself, tell all of those problems goodbye, and throw it as far as you can get. Now what this is a mental, symbolic way of releasing your problems. I've had many people who they took them and put it in a trash bag, sealed it up, dropped it in the trash. Because each time you're going to think about that, each time you want to think about those issues or those problems or those reoccurrence of your past, you think about the trash can. You think about the rock. And it helps you to control your thoughts, because the anxieties come from negative thoughts. Stress can come from negative thoughts. So control that, because living in the past doesn't get you anywhere. I think it was Martin Luther King who said that if you can't fly, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, it was something else he said to do. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. Guys, there's nothing behind you. I had one more thought about that. If I can pronounce it or remember it. But I think my daughter laughed every time we talked about this, because we said yesterday was history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is the present, and that's why they call it a gift. So something to that effect, but hey, use it. So the next one I was going to talk about, don't bottle up your emotions. We talked a little bit about that. You don't want to do that at all. Find someone to talk to. Talk to your cat. If you have no one to talk to your dog. Go get this stuff out of you, man. Talk to someone. I know I had to. One of my best friends never was in the organization. We talk about it all the time, and we got it out of me. So do that. Talk to your wife. If both of you was in the organization, talk it out, but keep it on a positive note. Once you've talked out of it, don't talk so down about it. Talk on how you can get past it. That's what my wife and I did. We not only talked about, okay, if we mentioned something about how the organization controlled, we also found the critical thoughts. And the critical thought was that, hey, there was control, but we allowed them to do that. Why? Why didn't we see that? But now we see it, and I'll never allow someone to do that to me again. You see how I focused on that negative. I looked back a little bit, but I kept going forward. I won't allow it to happen again. I learned from the past. Now I can move forward. Okay? So the next one, you're resentful or revenge. Guys, I can't even tell you where to go with that. You can hang on to something. You can hang on. You can be resentful. You can talk about them all you want to, but nothing's going to change until you change it. Don't allow someone to get in your head to have you constantly thinking about them. If you're thinking about them that much, you want to be resentful and revenge, you still are attached to them. So the way to get over the resentment and revengeful attitude is realize you're not changing anything. I often said before many times that being resentful is like running a race by yourself and you're still coming up a loser because you haven't made one step forward, but you're just running in place because you're busy being resentful. You're busy trying to get revenge. You know what? You never get revenge. Even when you act out the emotion, you don't get it. Because once you throw a rock, you can't go get it. You can't get it back. You can't get it back. So let it go. Revenge. Someone also said that it's like drinking poison and hoping that the poison kill the other person. So think about that. If that's where you're at with revenge, that's where you are. Let it go. Carrying that weight around does no one any good. So the next one, you want to focus on getting rid of anything that's keeping you from being fully awake if you're trying to get out of the organization. Remember the point. I made this on another video. It's easy to get out of the organization than to get the organization out of you. And if by hanging on to the things I mentioned, you're not out. You're not getting out. So never allow the organization or anyone else to hold a spot in your head. And the way to do that is, as you notice, I use the word organization. Don't give them the benefit of calling that name, any of the names. Don't give them the benefit of calling them by their name, by using their terms, by any of those things. Break free. Drop it in the trash. Throw it all away. Start your new life. Replace those things with your new life. Guys, start loving yourself. If you stop loving yourself because of what someone else have made you do, we may consider ourselves a victim. And if you get down that road where you consider yourself a victim by concentrating on revenge, that's a long drive back. It's a long drive back. I'm here to tell you that. So, take control. Let it go. Do not allow anyone to take space up here in your head. Move forward. But someone asked, okay, so these are just some of the things I had to consider. But how did I get rid of it? Why was I able to successfully move forward? Why was my wife and my daughter, why were we able to successfully move forward? Well, one of the things that I learned when I was a chef is that for everything in life, there's a recipe, there's a formula, and there's ingredients that goes in that recipe. If you make a cake, if you make cookies, the cinnamon, the sugar, the different things, you have to add those ingredients. If you don't add the right ingredients, it's not going to come out the way it's supposed to. What we just got through talking about was the ingredients to stay in the organization. And those ingredients can hold you back and keep you from being in control of your life. Now I'm going to give you some ingredients if you want to move forward. If you want to go and be extraordinary awakened, if you want to get to that point, then here's what we have to focus on. The ingredients I'm going to give you, you have to use them. It's like baking a cake and you changing the recipe. Make it your own some kind of way. But failure to use the right recipe, it's not going to be the same cake. So, what do? We realize, you have to realize that we all have, there's two fights. There's a fight between us and our ego. Don't underestimate the ego. That's the you want to come out, and then that's the ego. And that ego is dominant. It had dominated you through the whole course of your freedom. You see, the ego wants to be right. And they want to keep you out of touch with reality. Your ego is what prevents you from hearing critical but necessary feedback from other people. Your ego makes you overestimate your own ability and your own worth. It makes you underestimate your effort, the skills required to achieve this goal of getting past the organization. It's that ego that makes you say, I'm okay. I don't have a problem. RTS, oh, I don't need that. The ego makes you dependent on external validation. You see, it's our ego that makes us hang on to all of the things that can keep us from being happy. So where do we go? So how do we get past the ego? You know, I remember Bill Walsh, who was Bill Walsh, W-A-L-S-H. He was an NFL football player. If you're into football, you know who he was. He had about 4 or 5 Super Bowl rings. And he made this simple comment. He said, the score takes care of itself if we do what's in our control. Our control. You see, it's in our control to let go of negative thoughts, to let go of resentment. Remember, I said there's a 10 to 20% in life what happens to us. But that 80 to 90% is what we do with it. We can accomplish a lot with that. 80 to 90%. Do you know 10% is not much? Ask yourself, when was the last time you had something bad happen to you? More than once, twice, 3 times. I'm sure if you want to be negative, some people can find that. But I got something for that at the end. But think about this. 90% is what we do with the 10% what happened to us. So, what do you do to accomplish moving forward and be extraordinary? Disconnect from the old ego. Disconnect from that old ego. Connect with a kinder you. That's number 2. Again, number 1, disconnect from that old ego. Just let it go. It's going to be hard. But number 2 is connect with the kinder you, a compassionate you. That was one of the things that made Jesus so different. He was a compassionate man. Number 3, focus on effort. That's how you get rid of it. Focus on effort. No one said it's going to be easy. Don't even think about easy. Because anything that's worthwhile in life is not easy. It's not easy. It takes effort. But when you get there, then it becomes not only pleasurable, but enjoyable. Number 4, find out what you must do and do it. Why? If you want to be extraordinary, extraordinary people live the same lives and face the same challenges as ordinary or basic awakening. So in order to reach the truth, you must be willing to first, here's some others to write down, rid yourself of your ego. Number 2, rid yourself of negative thoughts. Number 3, rid yourself of other people's opinion. And number 4, rebuild your knowledge from a whole new foundation. And the reason this is important, to get out of this hole, you can't use that same hole that you got into to get into a new life. You got to dig a new foundation. You got to start fresh. The old foundation has crumbled. Start fresh. Start a new life by building a whole new foundation. See, don't let this small little chapter that's in your life become your life. You are bigger than that. Your life is a lot bigger than the little chapter of our organization. In fact, it's a great testimony for you to take control and show how you can grab hold of what was holding you back to move you forward by letting go of the things in this organization that held you back. And again, it's a chapter. Don't forget that. So if you get to the point where you get stuck a little bit and you go back and you want to peek at some of the things, and if you're trying to be extraordinary, if you're trying to get to that extraordinary awakening, that's okay. But say, hey, I'm going to do better tomorrow. Make each day, climb those steps until you get it out of your head. Change your language. Get the publications out of your house. That worked for me. I hope it works for you. The things to which our mind, body, and spirit requires the most from us, do you know most of us deny it? And you know what that is? It's complete happiness. Complete happiness. Your body, mind, and soul want to be happy. But guess what? You deny it. Don't let anyone rent space in your head. Got a little poem I want to read. And it goes this way. It's called Today I Quit. It says, I was complaining about my house being too small until today I saw a homeless couple living in the parking lot behind the mall. I was complaining about my car is old until I saw a lady walking with kids in the cold. I was complaining about my feet hurting when I walk until I saw a child in a wheelchair happy because she could talk. I was complaining about my traumatic gift. But I was complaining about my traumatic, painful past until someone said, today is a gift and time is short. Enjoy it while it lasts. I was complaining about my shoes on my feet until I saw a legless vet begging on the street. I was complaining about the many unfair things in my life. I even cried until I passed a full cemetery where people have died. I was complaining about the place to where I worked until I saw my pay. I could only smirk. Today I quit. Yes, I quit taking life lessons for granted. I should trust in God and not panic. So God, if you would, if you could forgive me, I only have one more complaint. The day is almost over, and this morning I forgot to say thanks. Folks, thank you, and I hope you make new memories. And remember, you don't have to believe in God, because you know why? He believes in you. I'll see you on the other side in the next video. Hit that like button.